Cozy Powell, this name is well known to every rock enthusiast. This brilliant drummer was behind such bands as Rainbow and Black Sabbath. Few people know that he had the opportunity to become a part of Led Zeppelin. After the passing of John Bonham, the drummer's role was offered to him, but Powell refused, considering acceptance a betrayal of his prematurely departed friend. During his more than 30-year career, Powell managed to work with many iconic artists. His contributions can be heard on dozens of albums, and many modern drummers admit that they only started playing the drums after becoming acquainted with Cozy's work. Before we begin, please support my channel by clicking the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you. On December 29, 1947, in Cirencester, Gloucestershire, Colin Trevor Fluks was born, a name the world would soon recognize as Cozy Powell. This is where the story of one of the greatest rock drummers began. He borrowed his nickname from jazz drummer Cozy Cole, and by his teenage years, he was already astonishing local residents with his drumming prowess. The future musician grew up in a foster family and never knew his biological parents. At the age of 12, Cozy began playing drums in a school orchestra, and then in youth clubs with the band The Corals. At one point, the band even broke the world record for the longest performance. By the age of 15, he could impress audiences with stunning solos that left everyone's mouths agape. Cozy's first significant stepping stone was the band The Sorcerers, which later changed its name several times and eventually evolved into the Project Big Bertha. During this period, Cozy dropped out of school and found a job in an office to save up for his first drum kit, a Premier. Despite this, he quickly built connections. By the late 70s he was on good terms with Robert Plant and John Bonham, Noddy Holder, Tony Iommi, and many others, now iconic figures on the global rock scene. With the arrival of the 70s, powerful collaborations and partnerships began, culminating in his role as the drummer for the then popular The Jeff Beck Group. During this period, Cozy recorded 2 albums with the band, Rough and Ready, and Jeff Beck Group. Unfortunately, the band dissolved in 1972. However, we can still appreciate the great legacy in the form of these 2 albums. Cozy was persuaded to record his own solo single by Mickey Most, producer and founder of Rack Records. The result was the composition, Dance with the Devil, based on Jimi Hendrix's Third Stone from the Sun. Powell was stunned when the track became a major success, reaching number 3 on the UK chart. The bass part in this composition was played by Suzi Quatro, adding a special charm to the track. In 1974, the musician founded Cozy Powell's Hammer with such musicians as Bernie Marsden, Don Airey, and later Neil Murray. The success was significant, all tracks made it into the top 20. However, at some point, Cozy felt uncomfortable and even ashamed of his drift away from hard rock. Soon, he renounced the idea of releasing similar singles, as well as a tour with the rock beauty of those years, Suzi Quatro. Later, he realized that his true passion lay in heavier sounds. Thus, he returned to the roots of rock and began looking for new opportunities to collaborate with bands and musicians who shared his vision of music. In the mid-70s, Cozy Powell became part of the legendary rock band Rainbow, led by Ritchie Blackmore. When the guitarist, in black, dismissed Gary Driscoll, he struggled to find a replacement. In this situation, Cozy became the angel with drumsticks in his hands, who seemed to descend from the heavens. Ritchie was very pleased with the new drummer. With Cozy, the highly successful studio album, Rising, was recorded, which reached number 48 on the Billboard Pop Albums chart and 11 in the UK. The main hits from this album were All Night Long and Since You've Been Gone. Cozy remained in Rainbow for 5 years, during which the band recorded several classic albums. However, in the early 80s, Cozy, along with Graham Bonnet, left Rainbow and recorded the hit, Night Games, which made it into the top 10 of the UK chart. Nonetheless, disagreements with Ritchie Blackmore over the commercialization of the sound led to his departure from the band after performing at Monsters of Rock in 1980. Before making history as the drummer for Black Sabbath, Cozy was almost part of the iconic rock monsters Led Zeppelin. After John Bonham's death in the early 80s, Powell was offered to rehearse with Zeppelin. He declined and later commented, "John Bonham's place is sacred, it cannot belong to anyone else." He was a fantastic drummer, and if I had agreed, I would have betrayed the memory of my colleague and mentor. As for Black Sabbath, Cozy became not just a drummer for the band but also a co-producer of several albums. He joined the group in 1988, worked with them until 1991, took a break for a few years, and then returned again in 1994 to 95. After leaving Rainbow, Powell worked with several well-known bands and musicians. Among them were the Michael Schenker Group, Whitesnake, Gary Moore, Brian May, John Entwistle, and Yngwie Malmsteen. In 1986, he became the new P in the resurrected trio Emerson, Lake and Powell, replacing Carl Palmer. The album Emerson, Lake and Powell was even released in the USSR. Additionally, he continued releasing solo albums, showcasing his unique style and drumming technique. Throughout his career, Powell recorded over 66 albums, not counting guest tracks. His influence on modern music is hard to overestimate, and many drummers admit that it was Cozy who inspired them to start playing. Following a prolific music career filled with contributions to major names in rock, Cozy Powell's life was tragically cut short on April 5, 1998, in a car crash. He was driving at 104 miles per hour in poor weather conditions on a motorway near Bristol when he lost control and slammed into the crash barrier. Tragically, he died at the scene. According to the BBC, Powell was under the influence of alcohol, was not wearing a seatbelt, and was talking on the phone with his girlfriend at the time of the accident. At the time of his death, Cozy Powell was residing in Lambourn, Berkshire. Shortly before his passing, he had returned to the studio to record with Peter Green of Fleetwood Mac. Polydor Records had released The Best of Cozy Powell, and there were plans for a reunion album with Ritchie Blackmore and Ronnie James Dio. Additionally, Powell had recently withdrawn from a Yngwie Malmsteen tour due to a minor injury from a motorcycle accident. He was undergoing physiotherapy and was eagerly preparing to join the upcoming Brian May tour. As it was later revealed, Cozy Powell was in a relationship with a married woman who was experiencing marital issues. On the night of the crash, she had called Powell, asking him to come to her place urgently. She was approximately 35 miles away from him. Under pressure and in a rush to reach her, Powell drove his car at high speed. During their phone conversation, she heard Powell exclaim, "Oh, sh*T," followed by the sound of the crash. After his death, numerous recordings featuring him were re-released, and his work continues to be referenced by many modern drummers. Every drummer who sits behind a drum set acknowledges Cozy Powell's influence on their playing. Recently, on April 12, 2024, a box set of 3 CDs containing the complete works of Emerson, Lake and Powell was released. This release became a worthy continuation of their brief but significant collaboration and was met with great enthusiasm from fans and critics alike. One of the greatest rock drummers of all time, Cozy Powell, will forever live in the hearts of millions of his music fans. Every record, every concert, and every solo performance left an indelible mark on the history of rock music. As one of his colleagues aptly said, he made all of us sound better, but he himself never became famous. This is precisely where Cozy Powell's genius lies, his ability to remain in the shadows, doing his job at the highest level and inspiring thousands of musicians around the world. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more deep dives into music icons just like this. Take care and bye for now.